Ready, Mr. Booth? Mr. Booth? Ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome, and thanks for coming to this City Commission workshop on August 22nd, 2017 at 6:30 p.m. Meeting called to order. Shall we stand for our invocation by Vice Mayor Evans, and we will follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together here tonight. We just ask that you watch over us and help us to make wise decisions that relate to the city of High Springs. We were elected, put in these offices, and intended to be good stewards of the funds from the citizens of High Springs. And we just ask that you help us do that tonight. We ask this all in thy holy name. Amen.
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 I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Here. Like the last meeting we had, we'll go over the general.
Roll call, please. Here.
Vice Mayor Evans.
Here.
Commissioner Jameson.
Here.
Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
All right, thank you.
Can I say one thing, Madam Mayor? Before we get started, just want to say something. If she asks you to do an invocation, don't put a starburst in your mouth right before you do it.
All right, item number 1. Presentation of proposed 17-18 budget for the following departments. Mr. Booth, you're on.
Yes, ma'am. And what we'll do is go over the overview first, like we did last week. And it certainly is a pleasure to do a budget when you have more revenues than you have expenditures. And that is a real good thing.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, ma'am. And we're certainly getting there. It hasn't been too many years ago when these meetings were very contentious. So
I must have overheard you.
we're looking at the funds revenues, the CDB grant funding. And this is prior year funding at $199,200. Some of this funding's come in this year because we've expended it from the last year and it's coming in. Is that correct?
Excuse me, where are we?
Yeah.
Overview.
It's on the overview, the
Yeah.
second
On the little handout.
Second page.
Yeah, second page.
And basically, this is a change
Linda.
from,
Yes.
Okay.
it's a change from the current budget, the new budget.
Right.
The highlights, and the CDBG grant finished,
There it is.
so that was what was budgeted last.
Right.
But we did.
And so your budget will be reduced by $199,000, which is grant money. The $75,000 is now, and that's more income, more revenues that were coming in the water service fees. Then we have appropriation from prior year funds of $100,000, and that comes off. And that's from
That's from the CDBG.
CDBG also. So your funds will be minus those amounts because we won't be getting the money in from the grants. In talking about grants, since I'm on that subject, in going to the meetings with DEP in the state last week, it appears that the state no longer is going to fund utilities for the cities except for springs restoration. And so we're in that's not going to affect us because we're on that stovepipe into that kind of funding. But for the rest of the state, they're not going to get any more funds like they did before. They have other priorities. I don't know what they are, but I ask, but they don't know either, but they have other priorities.
I was wondering, do they know what they are?
They don't, yeah. The water fund expenditures, there was a minus this year of $200,000, and that's the CDB grant, and we expended those funds. This year we won't get them in. There is a 3% lump sum payment for the employees, and that's $22,000. And then there's a transfer to the sewer fund. Now, this is a transfer from the water fund to the sewer fund of an additional $32,000. But I preface that by saying there is no more general fund. We have been transferring for the last 15 years funds from the general fund to the sewer fund. And partly because we have $13 million worth of bonding and we have like a $425,000 a year payment. We have been transferring a lot of funds from the general fund, and we've now stopped that for the first time. And hopefully in about a year or so, we will no longer have to transfer funds from the water fund to the sewer fund. It will be totally self-sustaining. That will be a really big thing. And then we can take that water money, basically, that we've been transferring and start doing water projects with it. Start putting in turnoffs and replacing lines and doing things like that. So we're certainly getting there. Second page, the sewer fund revenues. Sewer fund fees have gone up by $39,000. Transfer from the general fund, and this is because it's in parentheses, we no longer transfer the $82,000 from the general fund to the sewer fund. And the transfer from the water fund is the $32,000 increase.
Hold on a minute.
We have then the expenditures, 3% lump sum payment to the employees is $5,229. Operating funds have gone up $19,000. That has to do with grinder pumps. They're starting to still get older and older, and we're replacing more and more of them. So we've increased the budget by $19,000. We have decreased the sewer fund budget by $35,000, and basically there is no capital outlays this year, and that $35,000 had to do with the truck with the winch on the back, or which works out good. Actually, it's the crane they had in the back. And then the other fund is solid waste fund, and that is up by $29,000. And the expenditures, these are professional fees, are also up by $28,000. Because as the fund goes up, we have to pay the trash collector more. So one goes up, the other one goes up. Yes, sir?
No, I just make sure when we look at these numbers, and like when the sewer fees 39, the sewer fees, we got 711,000 and 750,000. So I mean, I don't want people to think when they hear 39,000, that's the difference type of deal. So the sewer service fees and revenue, we got 711, now it's 750.
Yes, sir.
So that's all. I'm just clarifying so people.
He's got to go back through the funds too.
Yeah, right.
All right.
These are just an overview.
Okay.
So where we have solid waste, basically, as we collect more solid waste funds, we also have to pay out to the collector amount. So they're actually, we collect more than we pay out. So that fund is plus. Fire assessment is $61,299, and that's an additional, is that correct?
Correct.
That's additional amount. Transfer from the general fund has gone down by $6,085. So we're putting less general fund money into the fire department, and they're paying more of their way. Lump sum, again, for the firemen is $20,237. And machinery and equipment is $20,000, and those are the air packs, of course, that we're continually, hopefully by the time they go out here in just a couple years, we'll have replaced them all. And they'll be good then for another 10 years or so. I'm sure there's a specific in there. 15 years, okay. So we'll be good with that. And then I'm sure it's be time to look at a truck. Impact fees, the $126,000. And then we're putting 110 into contingency, which also equates to fund balance. Yes.
And that's restricted.
Yeah, that's restricted. Yeah. We have quite a bit of money, you know. I know we balance it, but we also balance it by putting money into contingency. And so that's the money to be held there, and if we don't spend it, then it rolls over into our rainy day fund. And talking about that, this fund, off the top, we took $75,000, and we put that for reserve. And we've taken $500,000 and put that in reserve. So the idea is when we get to 1 million, you know, that's probably what we need to keep it. And then we can look at doing other things like building a police station or things like that. But we're getting there. And I expect we'll be at 1 million probably in the next 2 years or 3 years. So we'd like to
Let's say something on the 75, so if people are listening and so forth, and the commission did it before. That's money we've set aside, like in the bank, that we're putting aside in case things happen. And down the road, we said we wanted to get it to $1 million.
Yes.
Just so we have it, because I just want to make sure when people are listening and they look at things, we're putting money aside.
That's right.
We're spending. By golly, we're giving the employees more money, which people are going to
Right.
balk. But I want to make sure they understand we're also making darn sure that we're putting money aside in the bank
Right.
when something goes wrong.
And we started to reduce the ad valorem tax.
So, and that's come back. So, I mean,
That's right.
I want to
So
make sure, because things sometimes get slanted.
And that money is restricted.
Yes.
It's in a
yes,
restricted account.
Yes.
right. And I can tell you, you need money in the bank if there is a disaster. If we have a hurricane come through, you know, trees go down, all those companies that pick those up, they want cash. They don't want checks in the mail.
No.
You won't promise it, do you?
No more promises, and certainly they don't want to hear you get paid when we get paid from FEMA. But
Right.
They'll move on. They've already got their trucks started and they're ready to leave.
Did you roll it?
So we're now on page 57, and this is the Public Utilities Water Fund. And you'll see that, let me talk about the CDB grant. It is not this year, it is the follow-on year. We'll go for another one. Same kind of grant, we'll put in the water utilities. We put in a little bit of the money ourselves, but the money we get and the results we get in a whole area of town is pretty significant. So we're looking for the area now that's the western portion of the town, down 27 in that area there. And so it meets the requirements of the CDB grants. And so I think that because there are fewer and fewer cities applying for those, we'll be in a good position. It's sort of like FERDAP grants. We'll be in a good position to get it, and then we'll move forward. Hopefully, well, no, that's not true. Most of our other grants will go on at the same time, too, so we'd be really busy. We'll nail David's feet to his truck and won't let him leave. But we'll all be out there, and that's going to start just in a few weeks, because the Camp Calaqua and the grinder pumps, and then the large grant will come in, so it just follows right along. And we want to do that, so we'll be extremely busy. So the CDB grant, we'll go for that, not this year, but the following year. The water service fees, they have gone up to $625,000 from $550,000. The water adjustments are no longer there. Meter installations, and I think we're going to really push, even if we have to hire a company to go ahead and put in all the water meters we need. I've talked to a lot of companies. In fact, I know David's going to go to Crystal River because they've just put in a lot of new meters. Is going to take a look at those, and we really want to push because, you know, from everybody I've talked to, we could, in just a couple of months, pay for putting in all the meters from the fees that we'd be getting for it, because we're really giving away a lot of water and sewer because they're only doing the minimums. So we need to go ahead and put that 150 or 200 in there and go ahead and get what all the rest of us are paying for. So that's been one of the problems, is we've been giving away our services too much, and we're now in the process that we are getting more funds in. We can provide more services and provide more pipes that we need to, and that as long as we make everybody pay what they owe.
Where do you show the money for that,
For which one?
for the meters?
Well, that'll probably be an adjustment as we talk to the companies and find out, but you're already seeing a 550 to a 625,000.
That's revenue is what I'm saying.
That's the revenues.
What I'm saying is where do you show the expenditure for the proposed meters?
Well, not yet. We'll have to go back into the budget then when we find somebody that's willing to do it. Because then I could show the revenues coming in will be more than the cost of putting them in. It'll be budget neutral, as we say. So some of this is you're looking at goals and the object.
So if we get the revenue,
Yes.
and one of the things we would look to do would be to put in the meters. If we don't get the revenue, if we don't realize it, then we wouldn't do the adjustment. We wouldn't look to purchase the new meters.
That is absolutely correct. But so far, the meters we put in more than pay for themselves in a short period of time. And you can see why. People who only pay the minimum use up a tremendous a lot of water and everything because there are no restriction.
And we have put in money in capital for meters.
Right.
There's $50,000 for
Right.
from additional meters. We've been putting 50,000 in the last 2 years, I believe.
Right. And actually, do we have some on hand? Yes. Yeah. So we're going to put all that together.
I see this
and then
50,000 set aside in the radio meters. That's the electronic, right? That's the one electronic with the guy.
Yes.
Yes.
But we changed distributors or manufacturers type of thing.
We're
Working on that.
talking on that,
Yes,
about
okay.
that.
That's why David's going to go down to Crystal River
Chiefland.
to really take it.
Right.
Chiefland, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to Crystal River.
Yeah. We're going to Chiefland.
Right, all right.
That's not as exciting.
Yeah, that's right. I knew it was down there somewhere.
Well, Crystal River's a whole lot more.
We're getting off on a tangent here.
You're going to have more fun in Crystal River than we will in Chiefland. Right.
Okay, that's right. All right, so,
Now, are y'all talking about like redoing like blocks of meters?
yes.
Or are you talking about identifying which ones are troubled, redoing those and just,
Well, that's right. The ones that aren't in trouble, we're going to leave alone.
okay.
We have a couple hundred or 150 of them that
That y'all
are in trouble
already,
that have
kind
to
of
stop.
already identified, already know that,
They stop working.
okay.
And the new ones that we're looking at will be in like by area, because the way that you read them from an iPad or a smartphone, and it shows you all the dots where there's meters, so you know you're in this area, and as you find them and they get red, the dots go away. So you can walk down the street, read them all your lights go out, you not know that you haven't missed any. So this is supposed to be the new thing.
So the bottom line is, actually, last year we had 1,001,000. This year, 790,000 of revenue, but 200,000 of that had to do with grants. So we're actually up, and we're in a positive. The expenditures, The employees last year were 189,000, and this year it's 211,000. Some of it has to do with insurance.
Adding a worker.
And adding one more worker. Page 59. Again, it's the water fund, operating expenses. And when you see capital outlay, that's where you see the $500,000 for the meters.
50,000.
50, I'm sorry, 50,000.
That's a lot of meters.
Well, I can justify those, yep. And that's the only really capital improvement in the water fund is the putting in those meters. Expenditures are almost the same across the board at 126,000 to 129,000. Any questions? And the next page just shows we put $50,000 into putting in meters.
Transfer to the sewer fund. That's the 155,000. So when you get self-supporting, that 155,000, you would hear that what would you do with that $155,000? Have fun?
I'm sure he
It put it-
I'm sure he
spend
could
it.
think of a few things to spend it on.
That's right, looking at a new well field. And what I would like to do is when the sewer fund becomes self-sufficient and we have a sewer tank, is then to change the impact fees around to the water fund receives the majority of the impact fees and then the sewer fund less what the water fund is receiving. And then we'd have enough money to put in a new well field, put some more lines in, look at more capacity. Right. As we grow, we're going to run into a capacity problem. And we have a fairly large city. It's like, I don't know, 14 square miles or whatever, 14 square miles. And as they develop out, because the majority of our subdivisions are now 1/2 or better completed, as soon as they're completed in a couple of years, there'll be new subdivisions that will want to come in, and they will need water and sewer and all those. We'll be in a good position with sewer, but then we'll be on the same problem with water and coming up with capacity. So it's always one or the other, but as long as you have money, you can do a lot with. And what I told you is the state says they're not going to contribute any more, period. So either you come up with your own money or you don't. And so since we'll have money in reserve, I think we'll be in a good position to do that and grow, but we're going to grow in a moderate way rather than huge growth. So we're going to do smart growth. And really smart growth really says just don't let everybody come in and it starts costing you. Look at who you have come in and what they're going to provide for you. And I think our land development and our comprehensive plan allows us to do that, especially when we rewrite it. All right, so the sewer fund, and we've really already talked about the 82,000, and then 123,000 comes from the water fund. No longer does the general fund put in the 82,000. And you have 155,000 this year that is coming from the water fund. And again, that's a fair amount of money.
But it's still it's less than what's...
It's less than it was, and especially the general fund now doesn't have that burden, and we'll continue that, and we'll be able to do other things that the council sees fit to do. The employee benefit package at $122,000 last year, and it's $127,000 this year. We are going to start looking for people that have licenses, and we might even put them into a supervisory position. That is really one of the Achilles heels we have is We just don't have enough people with licenses. And we have a system that tends to break down at times, or people will help it break down, and we need the expertise to be able to fix it as fast as we can. We've been very fortunate to get people in here from other utilities that have assisted, but that may not happen someday. And so we need to do it ourselves. And that's one of our goals in this coming year, is to find people with licenses to put them into the utility. And we'll, because right now we hire a corporation twofold, I believe. Is that right? Twofold that comes into the sewer. They have the licenses and they do those things. And so if we took the money we paid twofold and put it into people that would have licenses, we would have them there all the time and then assist with our breaks and that. Looking at the sewer fund, the professional services at $30,000. It was at $20,000. We expended $26,000, and now it's $30,000. The total expenditures still come down to $233 from last year to $252, and those are certainly all explainable. Utilities have come down, as all the utilities in town have, especially with the new lights and that.
What is the difference between professional services and then your contractual services? Both of those are up. Just give me a quick example of the difference between.
One is twofold.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be the contractual.
Yeah, and the other is, David, help me here.
That's new water samples.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
We have to do samples every 2 weeks.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
And we're in that process of getting a license again, and so we're having to do more. But we've, with the nitrates and that out there, really haven't had a problem, but Suwannee River really wants to come in and do wetlands, and as long as they're going to pay for it, we'll try anything. And then they'll go and extend our sewer plant. So that's... We're capital outlays in the sewer plant. We're doing a lawnmower. Our lawnmower is very, very old, and we keep it in. They had this outfit that had done hundreds of sewer plants, and they had the dragon that went in there and cleaned it up. But their comment is, of all the sewer plants they had done, this was the cleanest, best looking, and best well maintained. And so that was real, and they would be glad to come back anytime. And then when we have a cost of $644,000, improvement other than buildings is?
Camp Colaqua.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, that's Camp Colaqua. That's right. That's the grant that's coming in, and that's what we'll expend. And that will start just in a few weeks. Down 236, you'll see that it being tore up and pipes being put in and such. So we're looking forward to that. I know Camp Colaqua is, because they've had pressure from DEP, and they're getting more and more people coming to their camp out there, and so this takes care of one of their problems. And solid waste fund, it's $733,000, and it's $763. That's due to the increased number of customers we've had in. And it's money in and mostly out, because we have to pay them. And by state law, we can't take the excess in revenues and put it into the general fund. It has to be used in that fund themselves. Yeah. So if you have enough legislators on your payroll, I guess you get to do what you want. But that was.
You guys know, with our transition into the drying back to you on the deal, what we've saved in the revenue is, expenditures, excuse me, as far as transporting the solid waste.
In the neighborhood of about 150,000 a year. From having, it's even, it's cleaner the way we do it. There's not that opportunity for some of the waste to get on the roads and that. It's a very clean operation. They like our waste, as you heard the engineers here one time, and they're still using it. And they have a very successful operation. They come and get our waste for us.
I just, once again,
Yeah.
the deal is,
It took a while. I know you beat me up a lot, but when it was finally
Don't look too
done, not too bad. But when it was finally done, it was a really good
it's
operation.
working. I think that's another investment in the future where it's saving us down the road.
Yes.
Because everything's dried, we're not paying for the water to transport it.
That is
We're
correct.
just doing solid.
Just solid.
So there again, I guess.
Yeah, some things really work well, and that was just happened to be one of them.
Well, you all did your homework. You and your staff.
Thank you. Personnel, again, some of the funds can go, the excess revenue funds can go from solid waste into personnel, and we spend $32,000 on personnel, and that's not make-believe personnel. That's persons that take the complaints, that follow up on it to make sure that the garbage is collected at those places that people call and say not. And so I think we have that on the agenda for Thursday, and we'll talk about solid waste a little more than that. The operating expenses from $499,000 to $538,000, and most of the fees are professional fees. That means that's the collector, what he receives per household.
But a lot of that difference, again, is just an increased number of.
It's just increased, that's right. Some of it is the credit of the finance director finding these people who have not been having their garbage collected to new homes. So that's always a continual thing. I think we gave way too many exceptions. I don't know why we did, but we did. And so now we're pulling back some of those exceptions. And there is no proposed capital outlays in solid waste. And I'll have the chief come up there. He can probably better explain his budget, but we certainly have taken a look at it. And the overall operating is $1 million last year to $1,059,000. So his budget has somewhat remained the same. His employee costs have gone from $729,000 to $749,000, and we're looking at putting in more full-time and less part-time. It's hard to manage just part-time and get 4 people on a shift when you're doing part-time, and it's easier if you have full-time. Yes,
And the majority of
he
his,
went? Oh, you went to the bathroom. Oh.
the majority of
Well, that was convenient. Yeah.
Fella, you know, you
Yeah,
snuck
I know.
out of
I
here.
kept looking.
Is the meeting
That's all
on
right.
there?
Yeah, that's all right. I've not been, yeah. You come on up here. We can talk. All right. So we're talking about fire control fund.
Yes, sir.
And personnel at $95,000 for last year and $95,000 this year, and not a lot of difference. The capital outlay went from $5,000 last year to $25,000, and this is the air packs?
Correct.
So for the air packs. And no contingency, but we have plenty of contingency in the general fund. And so the overall fund went from 1,021,000 to 1,059,000, which is certainly acceptable. Again, the following page for fire control fund is the capital outlay is the air packs. So we look at about 3 or 4 years unless we get a grant, and then we'll do it faster. Thank you. Cemetery fund reserve, and that's simply,
Stayed the same.
those are the cemetery fees, and they've somewhat remained the same, even though we've increased the cost? Okay, I guess we're going to bury less people. Less people, more cost. The and again, the cemetery reserve fund remains the same. There is we have a reserve in that fund of what, 100 and
It's not cash, it's
fund balance, but
yes, we have to maintain a fund balance of, I believe it's 125, but we're
right.
substantially higher than that.
Yeah, but fund balance also is cash, so it's both, but we don't identify it as reserve. We identify it as fund balance, but in here we identify it as reserve. So if for some reason we needed the $125,000 to buy more land in that, we'd simply take it out of the fund balance that we have.
Where does that show? Where does
It
that
won't
show?
show fund balance, but I'm actually very impressed that
Yeah.
Are you
it
prepped
really
well?
gets fund
Well,
balance.
that's right. And it's the money we have in the bank, and we have several $1 million in the bank.
You mean-
Okay?
Never mind.
Easy on the million.
Okay. All right. So we have $1.5 million. But we have quite a bit of money, and that's the money it takes us to operate, because our funds don't come in all at once. They dribble in there from the state. And so we have to have the funds available to be able to pay for all this. And then towards the end of the year, then we make it good. And that's how you operate government.
Jennifer,
Unless you're in the federal government, then you got to spend all you want.
do you want to say something? It looks like you.
Go ahead.
He actually did very
Right.
well. I'm very
That's right. And the government, the federal government system, totally different. You just spend everything you want, and then at the end of the year, if you have money left over, you must spend.
That's right.
Regardless of what you spend it on, but you have to spend it.
But it was fun doing it, wasn't it?
Yeah, but-
Spend that and more.
Well, the
When do they have
Navy-
money left over?
Well, easy. The Navy, not so much anymore, because they're breaking a lot of
Oh,
ships.
my
That's
God.
right. They ruined some ships out there.
That's right. So
And that's who I work for.
that's where their
today.
fund balance is going, fixing their ships. But they are certainly finding container ships very well.
God.
There. All right, impact fees.
Hold on one second for you more. So now what is this repurchase cemetery lot? What is that?
Oh, yeah, there are people that have bought cemetery lots that went to sell them back. There's one gentleman that came in here, I think he had 9 of them. He had paid $5 each for them, and he wanted to sell us back at 60. Oh, no. Jenny wouldn't go for that one. No, that was a no. But it sounded good.
It wasn't good
Yeah.
for him.
But yeah,
Wasn't good
so,
for nobody else.
but I think we got our 9 lots back. And so we said, well, yeah, I know. It's not a gambling thing. We actually use them, but
But Jim, do we sell them in books like that anymore? Or do we sell them as is?
individual, yeah.
Okay.
They can buy more,
Yeah.
but it's all individual.
Okay. Because I know that, what it is, Soldiers of the Cross? Didn't they buy a lot at one time?
They bought them individually,
Yeah.
but they
Okay.
bought several,
Yeah.
but
Cause like,
by a certain
Right.
section.
yeah, 'cause ain't no way possible somebody say they come and buy them for the 900 or whatever. 10 of them, let's use it for example. And then they come back and sell them to somebody else for,
Yeah, you can do that.
huh?
Yeah, you can do that, yeah.
You can do
All
that?
you have to do is have a quick claim deed.
Not if we know about it.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to. If they
Yeah.
want to sell them, it's supposed to come back.
Let's go back.
Mhm. Yeah.
Heard that some people-
There's ways around it.
Is that part of the documentation?
That they can't sell it back.
That it, yeah, it has to revert back to the city?
City has the first option on the deal. We bought 2 of them, that was in the deal.
Okay.
The city.
But again, there's ways around it.
And they buy it back for what you bought it for.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair, but 5 and 60.
It's good math.
Well, but I mean, to just kind of inform people, we're more giving and willing to help than most places are.
Oh, yes.
Most municipal cemeteries, and especially corporate cemeteries, they will not buy lots back.
No.
They tell you if you want to get rid of them, you're on your own. Get rid of them.
Right.
You
However-
put an advertisement in the newspaper and
Right.
I mean, I
Say
have
lots
people
for
all the
sale.
time that say, well, we want to sell these back. And I'm like, good luck.
yeah.
But you also get perpetual care. And as I said before, I pay about $800 a year for perpetual care in Illinois. So
Yeah.
but it's quite a, if I look at how many years, that's a lot of money I pay and will continue to pay.
I pay
Anyway.
the same thing just about.
Yeah.
In New Jersey.
Anyway, we're in impact fees on page 76. And we've gone from 118,000 to 244,000.
That's Camp Clock was in there and the new grinder, and the 14 new grinder pump
Right.
hooking to the sewer.
And plus every year, and then when the grant hits, because all those individuals will also be part, then the impact fees will certainly go up. But
What accounts for this? This is a rather large.
it is Camp Kalakwa, the 10 grinder pumps, and the additional homes that are coming online. We have right now 20 homes under construction in this town.
So this is not an overly zealous type of.
No, once Camp Kalakwa comes
Okay.
in, that's 55,000 just for Camp Kalakwa.
Okay, I just want to make, I mean, that's a large jump.
Yeah.
As people see it, I just want to make sure we're not
No.
dreaming. You know what I'm saying?
But even next year it'll be a huge jump because we'll have all those other people
Yes.
coming.
Okay.
And we're, and the people that I have talked to out there really are looking forward to it because they've been there more than 20 years. Their septic systems are failing and they're on quarter-acre lots. And so there's nowhere to build any more drain fields. They're having to drain or pump out their fields fairly regularly. And the cost of that, you can find systems that are above ground, but they are extremely expensive. So this is a good alternative for them, but it certainly meets our goals to get everybody off the septic system.
And most of this money stays in a restricted account.
Oh, yeah.
That's important to know.
Yeah, there's,
That's,
if I had to guess, 300,000 to 400,000
Right.
in that
right,
account.
okay,
And it has to be used for the purpose
right.
by which you have you can't just, I know a lot of
Can't
cities
fill for-
do that, they get in trouble.
Right, we can't take it out. The money
We
has to.
cannot take it. It is meant to expand our sewer plant for that, and the water, of course, is to put in more water lines and that, and we've been using that in conjunction with the CDB grants. So we get the bigger bang for our dollar by doing the grants. Then on page 77, the capital outlays are really at 17,000 and 17,000 this year. And we're still looking at redoing our bonds. I mean, it's not an easy process, but we're looking at doing that because I think we're paying a little bit too much. We pay 4.5 and 5% on our bonds, and I think we can get those down. There are no capital improvements. And the Community Redevelopment Agency, I'll turn that over. Since it's your budget.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What you see before you is what was recommended by the CRA board at our last CRA meeting, with one change. If you look on the second page, where it comes to regular salaries, you will see that regular salaries, not regular salaries administrative, is at 12,137, and that needs to be changed to 11,784, with the remaining 353 to go to other projects on the next page. Other than that, this is what was presented to the CRA board and recommended by them.
You trust the other board on that?
I don't know.
I don't know if I
Personally,
would. There's some crazy
you guys are a much better looking crowd. Any questions?
What was the need for the change? I know it's small, but just out of curiosity.
It was calculated wrong. So we had put in a 6% raise instead of a 3% raise for regular salaries. So that was just changed back.
And this is a one-time lump sum like the
Correct.
rest of them?
Correct.
Where did you say the balance was going into?
It's other projects, improvements other than building.
Okay.
Pretty messy there.
Hey, that was Jenny. I asked for some candy. She just flung it up here.
I have farmers market also. The manager is here if you have any questions. Hold on, let me get my paper.
I thought it was right up there.
We don't have a copy.
Yeah, it's in here.
Is it?
It's up front somewhere.
Yeah. It's in front of the other stuff.
I'm sorry. All right.
We gotta find it.
Page 40.
40.
Right, all my pages say 1 of 1.
41.
Yeah.
All right, if you look at the expenses, very little has changed for next year's budget. Almost everything has remained the same, with the addition of promotional activities is decreased from 5,200 to 5,000, while advertising is increased from 100 to 500. They're kind of the same things, but this better reflects what there actually are. Promotional activities is the grant, which includes the Fab Bucks, and then advertising is traditional advertising. And then operating supplies is decreasing from 2,750 to 1,640, and that's based on what our projections are for this year. Everything else has stayed the same. Any questions? Thank you.
So the pavilion's still on the capital outlays
Certainly is.
for the 4th year in a row?
Fifth, sixth.
6? Oh, my bad.
It's much closer,
We're that much closer.
that much.
I've been hearing that before.
Thank you, Chuck.
Well, in 60 years, when it's finally done, if I'm still alive, I can come and be the last commissioner
We'll make
that was
sure you're
around.
invited.
You know, just invite me.
A long time.
You have 2 pieces of paper in front of you. This is for Thursday, but I'm just going to mention it so you take a look at it. These are master meter calculations, and we went through a plethora of cities to find some of this. It was hard to find a city named Plethora, but we did. And so this simply is taking a number of cities and how they've done it, and then we'll talk about it some in the workshop. We're not looking to push it, but you need something to look at and be able to do. The other thing is a pay proposal. This will be an executive session. The information is not classified, but your opinions about it certainly are. And this has not been voted on by the police department. This is the PBA's first go around, and this is what they want. And I will certainly talk about that in the executive session. And that's all I have. I've run out of jokes. And I'm open for questions. This will be a great year. We'll be doing grants mostly and trying to get some of the other things done, but we'll be focused in on being out there on the roads, looking at the holes, making sure that they do what they're supposed to be doing.
It looks like you and the staff have really been working to get this budget together. Looks good.
And we all worked hard at the Florida League of Cities. I know
If nothing else, walking.
we did a lot of walking, but yeah, first I was disappointed that there wasn't nearly the numbers that were there before. And I was disappointed that the state only had negative things to say, that they weren't going to give anything away. So
That's it.
I was I know we're in a good position because we're at. I think we ought to sue Disney for using our name, High Springs Disney, but.
Or at least get some compensation for
I
it.
think they plagiarized us, really.
Now, when Mickey walks through that door with some lawyers on each side,
I'm going out that door. Yeah, I've already.
come here, Ed.
That's right. I already. Yeah. I have to meet lawyers here in the next few days.
That's what we should start our own theme park here in High Springs.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be good revenue.
I know.
Absolutely.
High Springs theme park.
Downtown High Springs.
How'd you come up with that name, Byron? That's innovative.
We already have theme works here. They can put all the props up.
They can do it. Yes.
If y'all, what color area we went into? What's the name of it?
Disney Springs.
Disney Springs.
Disney Springs.
Disney
It
Springs.
used to be downtown Disney. Well, they decided to change.
Well, they totally. I mean, you can't get to anything there.
It's
Just you have to walk and walk. You go into a big garage and then you walk.
I can see that in High Springs.
All I can say is don't go if you don't feel well and don't go if you're tired. Good about it. Oh, I
Good
tell you.
fried chicken.
I love fried chicken. Don't get it often, but
Yeah.
I don't think we're worth the walk though.
It's not worth the walk.
But it is.
I think Jenny's wanting a motion to adjourn.
Or whatever you call it, they will take you closer to the place than parking in the garage.
Oh, if you're open.
I make a motion that we,
I need a motion, please.
yes, that we adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.
Jenny was giving us the sign over there. Wrap it up.
It's like everybody doesn't want to hear.